Hello and welcome to episode 1061 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, June 3rd. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir. Can you believe it's already June?
I can and I cannot. My eldest is graduating from 6th grade in a few hours. So
Damn.
that is something.
Yeah, that is absolutely something. Yeah, it's incredible. The way time flies, it's insane. Obviously you have kids in the house, so you got that close measure there. But my niece, as she kind of the grades are starting to evaporate there, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I remember when you were a baby. But even within the baseball season, I kind of can't believe we're already in June. But then I step back and think about everything that's already gone on, and I'm like, yeah, there's already been a lot. But when you're living the day to day, it's that weird thing where I'm like, it has been a lot because it's been 2 full months or pretty close to. But then also I'm like, how is it already June? So I'm in that conundrum there. But standings are still tight, both in the league. We were actually just talking about some MLB standings that are shocking to us, but also in our leagues. So even though we are already into June and it's like, damn, it's June time, there's still so much time. Even if you have a last place team, and you probably hear this stuff a lot, and you're like, that gets tired. It is 1000% the truth. Do not give up on a squad. There is still so much to change. And that kind of leads us to our topic today about it's called Mayday. Are you worried about these guys? Basically, guys had bad Mays, and a lot of them had great Aprils that we were like, oh, this guy was a find. He's awesome. I succeeded with this guy. And it's not even to necessarily shade all these dudes. I'm going to be clear that I like some of these guys still, but just to show you that like 1 month up, 1 month down, and now here we start kind of at a status quo. And so many guys that are playing crappily right now are going to turn it around still. And maybe we'll get into those guys on Tuesday or something. But I want to know how you feel about these dudes here because they're currently in a downturn. Some of them have some stuff in June too, these last couple of days that I'm going to include. But for the most part, their struggles were in May, Justin. But the first guy we're going to start with did have a stinker earlier this month as well, 2 days ago. It's Garrett Whitlock. So he put up a 5.73 ERA and a 141 in May in the rotation. And then he put up 6 quote unquote scoreless on June 1st, but 1 unearned run, 5 hits, but 0 strikeouts. So I'm reluctant to be super geeked about that start for Garrett Whitlock against the Reds. So if we throw that one into the mix, it lowers the ERA down to a palatable 4.50. But then you have 24 strikeouts in 28 innings from a guy that we expected, hey, put him in the rotation. He can be a total stud. And I very much advocated for that. I loved Garrett Whitlock this year. I still do. I'm torn here because it's not a disaster. Even the 5.73 from May is really propped up by the 3 innings, 5 runs against Seattle. But what about this dwindling strikeout rate that resulted in a 0K game from Whitlock his last time out? Are you concerned with Whitlock as a starter, Justin?
Yeah, I am. And I think this is, you are kind of talking about it before you started recording. Like, this is the cautionary tale of, everybody getting excited about an electric bullpen arm moving into the rotation. Like, hey, if we were seeing it with him. You mentioned Spencer Strider.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the reasons where I really kind of try to pick and choose those guys that I'm confident are going to be able to translate into that, kind of role, because throw more pitches in an outing and you're going to lose stuff. The question is how much.
And can you back it up? Like, how many pitches do you have that you can go to as well? Are you just a 2-pitch guy trying to survive? That's the Nelson Lamet all over again type deal.
Yeah. The changeup's been really good. The slider has been really, really terrible
for Whitlock.
For Whitlock, yeah. And he has just become almost like a different kind of pitcher, and like we've seen it like really kind of show itself over the these starts since the beginning of May, where he's just giving up a ton of zone contact. Like, he is pitching to contact and hoping his defense is going to bail him out. You look at that first start in May. It was an 80% zone contact rate with an almost 18% swinging strike rate, and since that start, he has been giving up 90% zone contact, swing strike rates have dropped to the point where they're under 6% in 2 of his last 3 starts.
9% in the last 5 total from
Yeah.
May 10th to June 1st for Garrett
But-
Whitlock. 9%.
That's even propped up by the first 2 of those
Yeah.
5 starts being over 10%.
Yeah.
It hasn't been over, 7.1% in the last 3 starts. Like
That's so bad.
it's so bad. And I think he's just one of those guys that he would have been more effective had they made him the closer. Like, or a
why not just
multi-inning
keep him-
guy.
Yeah, why not just like for me, what I don't understand, I kind of thought, and now listen, I was advocating for this. I liked it. That they moved him in the rotation. I'm not fully out on Whitlock as a starter, and I think they kind of do need him if they're going to succeed. But what I thought was kind of a perfect match was Pivetta and Eovaldi get to do their thing, but then Rich Hill and Waka get one of Houck or Whitlock.
Yeah.
Why weren't you like? I guess the bottom line is probably they just don't have the luxury to do that because they don't have enough arms. But man, I think that would really bolster your rotation, so to speak, if you made those 2 tandems your 3rd and 4th starter. They might almost play better than Eovaldi and a Hill Whitlock combo and a Waka Houck combo. Those could have been great. Again, I guess it just boils down to the fact that they don't have enough pitching to afford that luxury. But I did really like that setup, and I love the idea of Whitlock, pitching every 5th day behind Hill, or Houck doing that, or just them having consistent roles. Now Whitlock's in the rotation, which again, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I'm unhappy about. I wanted that, but I am concerned by some of the stuff that we're seeing, where his stuff is not holding up. And you mentioned the slider in particular really failing him. And that's cutting into the Ks. And I am, it's a one-off game, but 0 Ks is always jarring. It is always jarring,
especially when you pitch 6. Like,
yes,
it wasn't
6 too.
It wasn't like how he got blown up in the first couple of innings. He just didn't have his stuff that day. Like, he went 6 in, gave up 90% zone contact and did not strike out anyone with his 6% swing strike rate. Like, yeah, that's it's super concerning from a fantasy perspective. I have no problem moving on from him. I think in 15 it becomes a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I think you got to hold at least. You can bench if you want, but I think you've got
depends on what you're going for, but yeah.
Well, there's a 2-step next week too, so that changes the whole calculus. At LA, at the Angels, and at the Mariners. A West Coast trip for Whitlock.
Okay, like at the Mariners is fine.
At the Angels is nerve-wracking, but I mean you got to do it.
Yeah,
I think you have.
If you can't use them for a 2-step,
then
like
it might be cut time.
Yeah.
That I would be okay with. 12, I understand cutting. 10, I understand cutting. 15, I'm trying to hold. I'm going to say this. 15, I'm starting him this week personally. I'm going to go for the 2-step on Whitlock, and if I don't see some turn here, then I'm going to be closer to you on the cut.
I just started Tyler Wells on a 2-step. Like,
yeah, I mean you have.
I don't have any room to talk.
You put your guts out there, and you survived the Boston. Not only survived, he thrived in it.
Yeah,
and I hope he doesn't burn you in the Cleveland one.
Oh God, he's going to.
Because I know it sets up for that just because you got so well. It did so well on the Boston one, but I really hope that that it's rewarded for you, even though we're competitors. Because I think you started him in our league. That's how I knew you had him.
Yeah.
I'm still rooting for you on that, just because. I mean, you really got lucky with the Boston one. I want you to get the full go there. But let's move on to our next pitcher, a guy who had a brilliant April. And I do still believe in 2, because I think he basically got dodgered in May. But Meryl Kelly did have a real big comeback month. Bottom line is, though, he kind of just brought his numbers back to like status quo, if you will. 367, 135 is his ERA and WHIP right now. And that's where Meryl Kelly should probably be. But he did have a pretty stern May to get there. 631 ERA, 171 WHIP. And as I mentioned, faced the Dodgers twice, including an 8-run disaster, during which he allowed 9 base runners in 2 innings. That's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, because his other 4 starts, 3 of them were 5 innings, 3 runs, which isn't good, but like those aren't killing you. And then the other was a gem, 1 run in 8 2/3. So a lot of it is a complete dud start. But he did kind of get back to where Meryl Kelly should be. So starting from status quo now, where do you stand on Meryl Kelly?
I mean, I think this is part of the problem when you got a guy who relies on so much contact to get him ground balls and out of innings when he's having trouble getting the ball down,
Mhm.
which what the issue was against the Dodgers. Um, it's gonna be a long night, and he's not a guy
Or a
that.
short one.
Yeah, well,
That
yeah,
that feels very long.
yeah, that's this is true. It's gonna be long innings and not
Yeah,
many of
yeah.
them.
A couple long
Um,
innings and then you're out.
um, the big concern for me is the ground ball rate has dipped, below 50% in over the course of May. Which, prior to that, he was, pretty much 50% every single start or better. And now it's like I'm wondering, I have to go back and watch some of these starts because I'm wondering if he's just having trouble kind of commanding his stuff within the zone.
Mhm.
And just not being able to, giving things that are too high up in the zone to hit. So, because he can't do that, he doesn't have the kind of swing and miss stuff that is going to work for him. He needs to get weak contact um, in a place that guys can't drive the ball. So
Yep.
I'm I don't think like he's not a guy like I'm running away from in the places that I have him necessarily. Is also like not necessarily. I mean, he faced the Dodgers twice.
Yeah, two Dodgers outings there.
In a Rockies team that's not as bad as we thought it was going to be.
They're
So
actually on the fringes of contention right now, weirdly enough. That's who we
yeah,
had the good start against. But your point about the ground ball rate is pretty huge. 47% in April for Merrill Kelly, down to 34% this
yeah.
past month, with none of them above 44. You mentioned the 50 threshold. He couldn't even get over 44% in any of his starts this past month. So again, the bottom line is he's now, quote unquote, where he should be. 367, 135. That's about what you're going to be expecting from Merrill Kelly in general anyway. So the velo is still up, but it's about it's a little under a mile and it's a little under a full mile now. So it's not as impactful as it was. He's kind of given back some of those gains. So when you're staring down, a trip to Cincy next week, what is the status for Merrill Kelly in a 12 or 15? Give your thoughts on both for Merrill Kelly at Cincy. Is this now something that you're more cautious with in a 15, or is he pretty much an auto start in 15 still?
I think he's
Outside of the
still in.
Dodgers.
I think
Outside of the
he's still
Dodgers.
an auto start, especially in a good matchup. I mean, Cincinnati, they're not like a 2-win team anymore, but they're still not good. Like
That
so,
yeah, yeah. You're not
I'm not.
terrified of them.
If you can't start him at Cincinnati, like where are you going to start him? Like
You should probably cut him at that point.
yeah. So I think you have to roll with him there in 12s and 15s. But I think just be a little bit more judicious about when you are starting him. So I mean, if he
Yeah.
has, starts against the Giants or starts against the Dodgers,
Trip to Colorado.
trip to Colorado, the Braves, or not the Braves, the Mets. Yeah, you maybe even the Braves. You want to just be a little bit more careful about when you're going to start him.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair with Merrill Kelly. After that, he actually sets up for another Cincy one. He sets up to get them back to back.
Nice.
And then the other one,
Both in Cincinnati or one's at
no,
home?
the one would be at home,
Okay.
setting up a two-step at home, Sin and Min. He gets Cincy and Minnesota that
Hey,
week.
I like that.
Yeah,
So
that's a good setup. So even
some
if
people
you
are gonna
don't
drop him, so I would
exactly,
pick him up. Yeah.
even if you don't like him this week at Cincy, if you see him on the wire anywhere, scoop, and then you get ahead of the curve on Merrill Kelly for the 613, 619 two-step Cincy mini at home for Merrill Kelly. So I like that as well, very much so. Now, Hunter Greene is on this list, and that's surprising because, yes, the no-hit bid, that came up short, but was a brilliant outing, is also included in May, and yet he's still one of the May Day guys here with a 581, 145. Because outside of that outing, it didn't go well. Actually, in the one after that too, at Toronto, but like there were a couple duds there. And when you're dealing with a month sample, that's going to happen. He also has an 8 earned run outing that had 5 home runs. If I lop that one off, the May 5th outing, he's a 342 for the month. So let's be clear, we're working on thin margins here. But Hunter Greene's volatility is perfectly exemplified in his last 6 starts. The 8 earned on May 5th, 2, 1, 1, 5, and then 4 in 3 2/3 at Boston. So he's all over the place. The consistency is the strikeouts, but also the home runs allowed. So where are you on Hunter Greene right now? Now that we have 2+ months in, he has a 6.19 ERA, but 64 strikeouts in 48 innings, 152 WHIP. Is there enough upside here for you to chase this potential danger?
Oh man. So I was telling you, I started playing softball for the first time in since the pandemic, right? Yesterday. And it's a co-ed league that used to have some weird rules. They've kind of changed them around a little bit. But one of the rules used to be there are no home runs. So if you hit the
Hunter
ball
Greene would love
over
that.
if you hit the ball over the fence, it was an out. And Hunter Greene needs to play in this league. Because when his command isn't sharp, he just gives up bombs.
Yeah.
Which is surprising for a guy who can like touch 100 so easily. I mean, it may be the easiest 100 that I can ever remember. Like,
He
seeing.
does not look like he's overworking himself in there.
No, but there are I don't want to say consistent. There are times where he just has no idea where the ball is going, inside or outside of the zone, and that's a problem. So it's a really live arm, and I'm intrigued by it a ton. But there are
fire every time you pick him up, right?
yeah,
With
like
Hunter Greene.
he's one of those guys that could go out there and, like he almost did, pitch a no-hitter, just because he'll overpower everybody. And then there are going to be other times where he gives up 3 or 4 home runs, and you're like, oh my god, my ratios just got torched. So like, if you're in a spot where you can afford to play with that kind of fire, then play with it, because the upside's amazing. And if you're like, I hate these guys in 15-team leagues.
Yes.
Because there's nobody on the wire to help you fix your ratios.
Yes. But if he is available, like, Greene is too tantalizing to pass, but you're getting so much risk that you're taking on in a 15. And if he blasts you with 8 earned, you're gonna be working that off for a week and a half. By the way, Joe Girardi was fired.
Oh, we were about to talk about Knebel here, and I was like, he's gonna get fired.
So let's finish up on Greene, but I just wanted you to know that as we get into the, I'll move Knebel up to our next talking point here, but let's finish on Greene. So we know that was a weird sentence. We know that the upside can be rich. He has a 2-step next week. Hunter Greene definitely got to be available in a decent number of like 10s. Let me get his roster rates: 40 Yahoo, 31 ESPN. So plenty of availability in 10s and maybe even some 12s. Hunter Greene, home to Arizona at St. Louis next week. What are you doing in the shallower formats? Let's say you do not have a substantial pitching need. You're just fine. You're a good run-of-the-mill team. Where do you go with Hunter Greene on the wire?
I leave him on the wire. I mean, in dynasty keeper leagues, obviously,
anything where you can keep.
You
gotta.
But in a redraft, like, I just don't want that volatility on my roster. Like, it's just,
that's fair.
I mean, even in a dynasty league, like I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast, I traded him in my 3-sport dynasty league for Christian Yelich.
I remember that we talked about that around the no-hitter, because you're like, dang, I traded him, but you got Yelich, who's been great. And then Greene was good the next time out, but then the 2 cents haven't been. And the tough part is, guys like this too. Let's just say you picked him up after the no-hit bid. You got the great start at Toronto, which you might have sat him for. But let's just say
you definitely threw him out there for Chicago. You ate the Cubs right there.
Like, yes, 5 earned in 5 innings. But let's say you were brave enough to go for the Toronto one. He's giving you a 491, because I would say most people probably sat him at Boston. We'll say the consensus probably sat him at Boston. But if you picked him up after the no, you got 2 starts. You got a 491 so far with 15 base runners in 11 innings. That's a 136 whip with 12 strikeouts. I don't know. I like Hunter Greene. I want him to be great. For me, this just isn't the year. I'm gonna be keeping track of him for next year and beyond.
He's gonna be one of these guys, or it feels like he's gonna be one of these guys that people are chasing for a really long time, because like, the stuff is so good and overpowering that he's going to be one of those guys going like pick Tristan McKenzie, like, right? Like where it's like people, it's a
Yes.
different downside because of the injuries. But where people will continue to put him in like the 160 to 170 range in ADP because they see the upside. And those guys I tend to stay away from because as much as I love their upside, like their downside crushes your roster.
Yeah, and I don't think you'll go broke fading this profile type, this electric profile type that is raw as hell, like Hunter Greene. I think more often than not, letting everyone else kind of mess around with that until they become established. You might miss out on the quick breakout sometimes, but the overall profit is there to avoid that player type. I totally agree with that. Quick aside here, it's not on the list, so pardon me for springing this on you. Who the hell's Graham Ashcraft on the Reds?
Oh, I wrote him up last night.
Yeah, exactly. So let's I figured you have at least a little something on that so I could spring it. What are we doing here? Is this Connor Overton part 2? Remember, he was pitching well for the Reds as well. Like what's up with Graham Ashcraft? Give us a little rundown here.
Ashcraft is really, really interesting. He's got 3 usable pitches. He does not get strikeouts, or at least he has not at the major league level
point
yet.
Yeah.
But he's done a really good job of not walking guys, which has been kind of, I think, the issue sometimes in the minor leagues. He does not give up home runs. So like the profile will work in Cincinnati. Like even throughout the minor leagues, like he is not giving up.
He's like extreme ground ball.
Yeah. Like he gets a ton of ground balls. He was pretty impressive last night. The slider was impressive. Sits in about 90, 96, 97, 98 on the fastball. And he's got a really nice 2-step coming up, I believe.
Here, I got you.
He
has the Arizona at St. Louis one that Hunter Greene does.
Yeah. So, the slider was super impressive. I do think there are going to be some growing pains, but I also think there's a chance we see some more strikeouts coming. He's shown more strikeout ability in the minor leagues. Right now, he's pitching to contact. He's letting the defense get him out of trouble.
It's working.
So it's been working. I want to kind of. I think right now you can pick him up in a deeper league, especially for that 2 start. And maybe a 12, depending on how deep the rosters are. But he's mostly like a watch list guy. Okay. Does the swing and strike rate start to come up? Does he start trying to get some more strikeouts? Because right now, I mean, he's got like a 93% zone contact, like an 8% swing and strike rate. That's not super interesting, especially on a bad team in a bad park. Even though he should keep the ball in the yard, no problem. But if we start seeing the swing and strike rate tick up and the strikeouts tick up and the contact numbers come down, I think he could be really interesting.
Ashcraft, it's Graham Ashcraft talking about 24-year-old, organizational type prospect. He was 17th on the Cincy report, but it's command. And I think we've actually seen some better command from him at the major league level. He got a 40 out of a potential 50 in his scouting report. I think at least the brief bits that I've seen, he's showing about average command. And if he has that, I think there could be a bit more here with that heavy ground ball rate. For fantasy purposes, we do need the strikeouts to go up. 13% will not cut it. But he throws 98. He's got a 96, 97 mile an hour cutter, and then the mid-80s slider. I mean, there's lots to like here. He's got the 4-seamer and sinker split. So technically he has 4 pitches, even though it's kind of like 2 pitch sets split out. It's basically fastball slider, but then he throws in the sinker and he throws in the cutter to make it a little bit more mixed up. So I'm kind of intrigued. What would you say, maybe just randomly to the exact dollar, what would you bet on him in like a 15-team main event, just for an example, out of nowhere, just like for no reason, just exact dollar that you would put on?
The exact dollar, I think he's like a $26 guy.
Okay. Let's see if I put 27.
Especially if you are, at a point where you only got like $250 something left.
Dalton put on him.
Dalton only has $15 left.
Yeah, that's true.
So Dalton,
we have to get Dalton on soon. We got to talk about this whole season that he's had.
I mean, I think Sunday would be a great time to get Dalton on because he doesn't have to do much fab work.
That's true. He's very free, at least for our
Yeah.
league. He has $15 left. So yeah, little Graham Ashcraft aside there. Keep an eye on him. I like your take. Everything there, or deeper league, you're starting to see some potential interest. 12, maybe keep him on your watch list. 10, you don't have
To
to
be
worry about
fair,
right now.
I didn't know who he was 2
I didn't
days
either.
ago.
I didn't
Like,
either.
I saw the line last night and I was like, huh, interesting. I'm gonna go, and I just turned on the archive on the app, and I was like, oh, this is interesting.
And a
Like,
little
this,
something there. A little
yeah.
something to see.
Hmm.
And, they've had such a disastrous year that we're kind of like discarding everything, but they've had a few interesting things pop up. Brandon Drury was a big fab guy at a point. Stevenson is kind of fulfilling the promise that he had. Cal Farmer having another heater, making me look dumb. I roast him all the time. But then Graham Ashcraft. I mentioned Connor Overton. Now, he ended up getting hurt pretty substantially. He's on the 60-day IL, but he was pitching really well out of nowhere. He had a 182 ERA, 0.89 whip in his first 25 innings. So the Reds, despite the disastrous season, have had a few things kind of sprinkle in that haven't been too bad. Now let's get to Philly. They don't have a manager. They have a new manager now because Joe Girardi is out. Corey Knebel has been bad. And you were hitting on a point that you wanted to expound on here about teams that have good players but horrible construction. And the first thing I said before you say anything was, oh, like Philly? And you were like, specifically them, but others too. So talk to us a bit about that, and then we'll get into Knebel specifically, who's had a tough last few outings.
Yeah, I can't remember a season in which there was such a huge disparity between teams with really good players and really poor roster construction versus really not talent-rich teams with great roster construction.
Mhm.
And I mean, and we're talking, when you say about bad roster construction, I'm talking about the Phillies, the Braves, the Yankees, and the Yankees have just made it work. But imagine how good they'd be if they didn't have like all these guys who can't play defense, or like 35 years. I mean, Matt Carpenter is like just crushing the ball.
They're
Right
a leadoff hitter, dude.
Like weirdly, like
I'm here for it, to be honest. Even though it's positive for the Yankees, 3 homers. I'm here for it. The mustache. I like.
These are not our dad's Yankees. Like these are not evil empire.
Mm-mm.
The Yankees have not won a championship since like I was in high school.
That's why it's hard to hate them anymore.
Yeah,
like,
I
still kind of inherently do to tweak Yankees fans, but I love so many of.
I still hate Yankees fans, but their team in general, I don't.
They have a lot of likable players. Like I find myself enjoying. Like Rizzo has a dachshund, so he's inherently cool. Like just automatically.
Yankees fans are like Cowboys fans now. Like right, it's like they're just holding on to the past. It's the older brother in Napoleon Dynamite. Like I used to throw that ball over the mountain.
Oh no, Uncle Rico.
Uncle Rico.
I can throw that football. I can throw his football over that mountain right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right about that. It's like you could. I still clown on Yankees fans, of course, but again, more in like you're kind of sad now. Because you're going to talk about 27 rings.
The 27 is how many years since they've won a championship, not the rings anymore. So,
all right. Well, now that
we just lost, exactly right.
Let's talk about this. What's going on here? So they say we got to move on from Girardi. They are 22 and 29. They're underwhelming. They've had big expectations every year. And one of the pieces that I did really like was the acquisition of Knebel. And I thought, okay, they got themselves a real closer. And I thought they're really starting to set up a bullpen that could be good. Like there's pieces there that could absolutely work. I've been a Sir Anthony Dominguez sucker for a while. Health has actually kind of started to get him recently. But I'm like, okay, Knebel set in the closer's role. Now you can try to backfill from there. And he'd been mostly great. Is this just a blip, or is there reason to be concerned? Over his last 7 outings, he's given up runs in 4 of them. One of them was an unearned run, but he still gave up 3 base runners in that run, in that outing. Bottom line is it's 6 2/3 innings, 12 base runners, 6 runs, 4 of them earned, 2 homers. Is Knebel in trouble or a blip?
This is tough. Anytime a guy is giving up runs in the 9th, he's in trouble. Like, I mean, unless he is a certified stud.
With Kenley gets leash.
But who are they going to? Are they going
now? Dominguez is pitching well. The aforementioned, I didn't just bring him up out of nowhere. He is pitching well. He's been a closer on this team back in 2018. Would the new guy, the interim, I think they said somebody named Rob Thompson, excuse me, named interim manager, would he maybe want to mix it up right away and get somebody new in the closer's role, or does he not want to rock the boat that much?
I don't think they're going to rock the boat that much. Like, I mean, yeah, Girardi, like, is the one who got knifed, but like, he is not the reason this team is set up the way it is. Like,
He's a
like
guy.
this was like Dombrowski. Like, this is just a really, really poorly constructed team.
I love Dombrowski, but his constructions are not always great. Like,
I could see Knebel start to share the role with like Brad Hand.
Based
like
on matchups.
Yeah, playing matchups more, which I've been super surprised like how much they've gone to Knebel. Like, I really thought they would be a little bit more cautious with him considering his injury history. So I would not be surprised if we start seeing him play a little bit more matchups, but I think Knebel still got a fairly good hold on the job, at least for right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, I guess a manager could say, I'm going to change things up, but
would you spec on Hand or Dominguez?
And
if so, in what scenario? Like, saves desperate, saves interested?
I think maybe saves desperate. I'd spec a little bit on Hand. I guess on Dominguez you can too. In a 15-team league, like a 10 or 12, you can find other things out there.
Yeah, but don't worry about it there, and don't cut Knebel anywhere.
No, do not cut him,
because nothing's been announced. This is just acknowledging that he's had a cold snap there with those few blips. And the 2 homers were against the Mets and the Giants. You know, he didn't give it 2 Pirates homers or some garbage, you know, even though the Pirates, badass team, they destroyed the Dodgers. They swept them, and they took the season series as well. They beat them 2 or 3 at home as well.
So they're in the playoff race.
5-1. They really are right now.
They need to do is bring up O'Neal Cruz and
just
really
get O'Neal Cruz up, man. Just get Mitch Keller to use that extra velo for some good here. All right, let's talk about another closer, one that I had zero concerns about, one of my absolute favorite pickups this year drafts this year in Taylor Rogers. Now we're going to include some June with him. His outing yesterday was absolutely horrendous, and it really is very recent. He doesn't quite fit this, but I wanted to talk about him, so I want to just be clear. I'm kind of cheating here. He had 1 bad outing on the 28th, but then yesterday 4 earned. He's given up 7 earned in his last 3 outings, just completely ravaging his ERA. Like, Taylor Rogers just gave back all the quality. He's now at 327, which is whatever for a closer. Still has a .86 whip, but what the hell's up with Taylor Rogers in his last 3 outings, pitching horribly? Are you concerned?
I'm not concerned.
Okay.
I mean, it's too.
You better be right.
It's just 2 bad outings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one the Pittsburgh one, like, yeah, he gave up the homer, you know, but
and Pittsburgh is amazing. Don't forget.
Yeah,
discovered that
competitors, right? Like Michael Chavez season right now, baby.
And it was a Brian Hayes homer at least too. It wasn't like Rodolfo.
There you go. So it helped your fantasy team. Well, I've heard it as well. Yeah, I'm not super worried about Rogers.
Okay.
The only scary part about Rogers is the fact that he pitches on a team that has other options. Like they have, you know, and they're, you know, like we said in the last episode, I think Preller is going to be aggressive at the deadline. So like, could they potentially go, hey, we're going to go get a guy, you know, a right-hander for the bullpen that's a stud, you know, for at the deadline? Like they definitely could.
What if they bring Melanson back?
Oh God. How much of that fucking earth
just ruin everybody's life and put him right back in the role? Taylor Rogers is left.
They definitely could.
You never know with Preller, but I'm not too worried either. But it is, you know, when you get jammed up for 7 earned in I
mean, it sucks, but he's still got a 344 FIP.
Yeah.
Like,
and a great whip, a billion saves.
Like, and he's not, he has 5 walks since the beginning of May. Like, and that's, you know, he has 9 saves and 5 walks. Like that's fine. Like he's
pretty good.
He's gonna be fine.
All right, good. Then I'm talked off the ledge for now. Let me just look at one thing.
You can drop him in our league if you want.
No, I actually don't have him in that league.
Oh,
Striker does, of course.
Of course he
Jenstead does.
Well, good. Then I'm glad he got blown up.
So he was 94.4 before those outings. He's 94.8 in these. So his velo's actually up almost a half tick in this.
There's no reason to be worried.
There. All right, let's talk about some hitters then. And I'm pretty sure this guy was bad in April as well, but particularly awful in May was Javier Báez, quite literally the worst in baseball in terms of a WRC plus standpoint. 23 was his WRC plus. Cool. And Justin, I watch Tigers every day. So I've been watching this, and it's the stereotypical thing of he can't hit sliders. And so the AL's like, oh, I don't know why the NL didn't throw you more of these. Here's 1 billion of them. His slider rate that he's seeing them is at a career high 33%. His his fastball rate is at a career low 38%. The AL has taken the obvious script in front of them and embraced it. I don't know why the National League didn't do more of this, but no fastballs and a bunch of off-speed stuff for Baez has got him twisted. 55 WRC plus on the entire year, 197, 236, 306, 3 homers, no steals. Is Javier Baez cut worthy in a 10-teamer right now?
In a 10-teamer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is.
What about 12?
I think he is.
15 yet?
I think he is. I think you can. I think he is. Like, I think he's cuttable everywhere. Doesn't mean you should necessarily. Kind of depends on what you're picking up. Like, I don't like Ramon Urias. Like, is that like someone I don't know that I want to cut him for. Ramon
what about
Urias.
Thairo Estrada in a 15?
No, I'm not cutting him for Thairo Estrada.
Sheldon Noisy. Andrew Velasquez.
I don't love it. I don't love any of these.
Luis Guillorme. I know I'm not hitting you with the best names here. What if you could do it? Okay, let me see if I can find just like a standard, like not just a middle infielder. Maybe you can finagle your lineup around. I can't really find anything in a 15 right now, at least in our main event. I'm going to say you probably can't find anything enough to cut Javier Baez in a 15. You can bench him, but I'd probably hold. But in a 12, let's talk a little bit more in the 12 range, because that's where I think the actual tough decisions are going to start coming, like this week. Would you prefer, his teammate Jonathan Scope, who is in the beginning of a scopening in a 12 team, would you go Scope for Baez?
I don't think I would, but that's really close. Yeah, but I don't think I'm doing that.
What about the aforementioned Carpenter, Matt Carpenter lead?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay, I just wanted to see where you were with this.
No,
another aforementioned guy, Michael Chavis.
This I would do.
I think I would too, man, because what steals are you losing? He hasn't stolen. Not that he won't, but like Chavis actually has a steal. I don't know. And Chavis, I think it's so crazy that we're considering this, but I absolutely would.
Yeah, I think
absolutely
I would. I have Chavis in a number of leagues.
So do I. So we have bias there.
Last 2 weeks, Chavis is hitting 333 with 2 home runs and a stolen base. He's gonna have the ups and downs that Baez will, but what do you think the O swing right now is on Baez?
I'm gonna guess like 62%, which I know
it's almost 50%. It's 40.
Yeah, I was gonna say 50, but I wanted to go a silly number.
It's really, really gross. And I mean, the crazy thing, his zone contact rates are up. Like, it's the best we've seen since 2018.
Oh,
but he's just swinging so much out of the zone.
Yep.
He clearly cannot. Like, you almost wonder, like, is he having eye issues at this point? Like, because
he just flails at these sliders that were never a strike, too.
Yeah.
I know it's easy for me to sit here and judge from my chair. I get that, but like, it's been this way forever with Baez. It's just, like I said, the American League seems to have taken the blueprint and amplified it, and I don't know why the NL didn't do more of this in terms of not throwing Baez fastballs.
He has the highest swinging strike rate of his career, 21.7%. swinging strike rate.
Jesus.
Like that is
That's horrendous.
It's atrocious. Like I understand not wanting to cut him for these kind of guys because you paid such a high draft bonus, and let's be honest, the upside is still amazing.
Yes.
But
He
I
will
also
be better. I believe, like I firmly believe
well,
that.
It can't be worse.
Exactly. So yeah, he will be better. But it's one of those guys that you cut. Again, we've talked about this idea throughout the year. You cut knowing that, like, hey, A, this could burn me, or B, I could end up wanting to go back to him. But right now, in a shallower format, I can't continue to hold Baez.
Yeah, he should
and
not
take
be
this
on a I mean, he should not be on a
trash.
roster in 10s for sure, 12s probably.
Yeah.
And I think 15s is where you start really picking and choosing your battles.
Yeah, depending on what's available.
Yeah.
I totally agree there. As crazy as that seems to feels to say, and you know, it's too early to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
You know what's crazy? Do you know what his strikeout rate is?
Is it not crazy high? Is it like 28%?
It's 25%.
That is kind of weird. So it's a bunch of shit contact then, because you mentioned that it's contact that he's making. But that, like, and so yeah, the 248 BABIP
with a 22% swinging strike rate, like
that's so, which means the strikeout rate is going to go way up.
Yeah,
it has to.
I wonder if he's just changing his approach as soon as he gets the 2 strikes.
Yeah, and just pure contact, but it's not good contact.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good right now. If you do cut Baez, do the little watch list thing on whatever site you're on. Make sure you have the little thing so you keep tabs on him, because again, you might want to return to him. I would not be surprised to eventually see a heater, but as I watch him day to day, I'm like, this is, it's so early. It's 40 games into a 6-year deal, but this is why I didn't want Baez, because of the plate profile. The defense is still amazing, by the way, and he made a defensive play the other day that was pretty bad that I think really worried Alex Fast. And I just want Alex to know, don't worry. It was a bad play, but his defense has been quite good. At least anecdotally. I guess I can check the outs above average and everything. But me watching Baez day to day, I feel like the defense has still been a strong part of his game. It's just there is zero hitting. Yeah, outs above average, 94th percentile. So he's still brilliant in the field and adding value that way, but he's dreadful at the dish. Let's talk about Jesús Sánchez, who has hit a couple of moonshot homers, including one in Coors recently, that has brought him back on the radar in a positive way. But after a solid April, Sanchez went in the tank a bit, and he's got that volatile profile, that all or nothing, prodigious power, but tons of swing and miss. So he put up an 839 OPS in April with 3 homers, but then 513 here in May with just 2 homers, 213 BABIP, but 27 strikeouts and 81 plate appearances as well. Is this just the Sanchez experience, or do you have some concerns about the young center fielder for Miami?
This is a Sanchez experience. He's going to have ups and downs. There are going to be times where he feels unplayable. He got dropped in my Tout Wars league a couple weeks ago, and I had him as a backup bid, but I really needed an infielder. So that's what I ended up going with. I mean, this is kind of who he is, I think. And there are going to be times where he's frustrating to own, but man, the sweet times, that's when you're going to be really, really, really kind of enthralled by him. And this is why people were he was one of these sharps sleepers where people, really, really smart people in the industry, including our buddy Vlad Sedler, were all over Jesús Sánchez. But this is why I was a little bit more cautious, because the contact issues, especially swinging outside the zone, are going to be a problem, and lead to these slumps. But when the Jesus, there's no scopening for Sanchez.
No, Sanchezian.
When he is on a holy run, Jesus is, then you want to ride the hot streak, because I mean, and it looks like that one is coming right now.
Yeah, he is.
I would pick him up if he's been dropped in a league and kind of ride the streak, but be ready to drop him again because it's, he's going to be a guy that I think at the end of the day you're like, oh, the numbers are okay for where I got him, right?
Yep.
Especially if it was off of the wire.
I think that as well with Sanchez.
But
there will be, you're trying to ride the wave, and timing those can be difficult. And this is a player type. We talk about this all the time as well. But like, manage to your style. If you don't like to mess with these player types that are big time wave guys, then don't do it. But it can be a great way to stream. We always talk about streaming pitchers. You can stream hitters in shallower formats in 10s and 12s. I think you can a little bit in 15s. In fact, I think that's one of the things that Phil talked about doing last year in his big successful season was streaming some back end hitters. But particularly in 10s and 12s where the wire is so robust, you can absolutely stream. And riding a guy like Sanchez or even Scope himself, who's in the middle of a scopening, you can absolutely get that done. So there will be downsides.
But I think he's going to hit like 235 with like 23, 24 home runs. Like he's fine. Like,
yeah, I think he'd push 30 if he wasn't in Miami, but I agree. I think it's going to be.
He needs to raise the launch angle if he's going to hit 30. Like he's got like, I want to say, I'm going to double check. I don't want to give bad information. He's got a 6-degree launch angle, and he's putting the ball on the ground like a little bit too much. I want to say it's around 50% of the time.
It's 51. So, yep, you're right.
Yeah, so like he needs to raise the launch angle a little bit, but if he does, then you're looking at a guy like that could be a 30+ guy. Okay, I mean, there's legit, like he's got legit 70 grade power. Like
I think it's definitely in the future that we'll get that 70 grade power coming from Jesús Sánchez into 30 home run capability.
He's one of those guys that next year I may be on because I think if he, especially if he doesn't hit 20 home runs this year, like he's going to be a guy that people kind of go, I'm done with, and that'll be the time to buy.
Exactly. It definitely depends how he finishes. If he hits 7 September homers, his price is going to be through the roof.
Yep.
Because everyone's going to be predicting the 30 homers next year. But if he sputters and needs a downturn and he has like a 414 OPS in September or something, then the price is going to go way down. And then you and I are going to pounce like crazy. All right. Our last guy here, not somebody who is supposed to be the volatility of a Sanchez. In fact, quite the opposite. This is a guy you'd recommend to maybe get to balance out a Sanchez in Alex Verdugo. And yet here he is on some crazy volatility, wherein he had and by the way, he wasn't that great in April either. So this wasn't a big April turned into crap May. This was like a palatable April turned into a disaster May. Alex Verdugo hit 219, 250, 302 with 0 homers. Not a huge power guy anyway, but 0 homers in a month, 0 steals, bad batting average. Everything went wrong. Bad month or reasons for concern with Alex Verdugo?
I want to like stay the course on this one. Like he still has a 289 XBA for the season.
It's because he's striking out 11%, which is a 5-point dip. Swinging strike rate is down in correspondence with that nicely. It's a 245 BABIP.
Best zone contact of his career.
Yeah, like I can't see reasons to hate Verdugo.
No, and it hurts because like he is on my main event team right now, and like I got him for batting average, and he is not producing batting average. He's not really producing anything. But I think this is a buy low opportunity. I mean, 245 BABIP for the year. Like I just think he is a better player than this. Yes. And yeah, I think this is a guy that if someone is dropping him in shallower formats or is putting him available via trade, like this is someone I'm buying on right now.
I mean, if I were you, I'd cut him in a 15.
Oh yeah,
like I'm trying to help you out. Like I'd stone cold cut him. I'd actually, if I were you, this is just what I'd do. I'd reach out to Greg
and see if I could just trade him. Yeah.
Well, no, just asking for special dispensation to cut him today, so you don't have to deal with him on the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And then no one will touch him in Fab.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, it's not fair that you would get special rules, but I think we can make an exception. I would co-sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd co-sign for you. So let's see if we can get Verdugo, just kind of cut off your 15 team. Just that one main event. Maybe I guess that is the league that I'm in. I hadn't really thought about that before.
Oh, you hadn't thought about that?
No, I hadn't actually. That hadn't even crossed my mind. But I got Greg on the horn right now. Here he is. Hey, Greg. Yeah, no, obviously you're not cutting in 15. I don't
This
think
is
12.
the team of the disappointing outfielders.
Yes,
Brian Reynolds has finally turned it around. He's
this is the
finally got
team
it
of
on.
similar outfielders though, too, right? Because
Yeah.
Brian Reynolds, Andrew Benintendi, and Verdugo.
And I have Robbie Grossman on the IL.
You do have 4 of the same outfielder.
Mhm.
So you're staying the course. Obviously, I completely agree with that. 10s, you're scooping him for sure off the wire.
At 10s and 12s, if he ends up on the wire, and I mean, and if he's not on the wire, like this is the time, like this is a perfect example of like going and trying to get, trading like if your pitching is great, trading a great pitcher for 2 underperforming hitters. Like I think Verdugo is a great target. Because Verdugo is one of those guys I think was really undervalued coming into the year.
Totally agree. And I think it depends who has him in your league. Somebody like you about him. And we're not in a trading league, but like if it was somebody who kind of took him just because like, oh, he's on Boston and he has a good projection here and they're not like a huge Verdugo believer, they might be inclined to jump and say, oh, I'll trade him. I don't have an allegiance. So yeah, I start at a discount, but I'm also willing to pay something that's pretty close to what would be the market price of when he was drafted, because he wasn't that expensive to begin with. And I just can't see how he remains at 235, 273, 352. He's been doing too much good stuff and just not getting rewarded enough for it. So I'm not really worried here. I don't see any batted ball profile changes that have me concerned. His hard hit rate isn't even down that much. It's 2 points down according to StatCast. Barrel rate's actually up a tick. Like Verdugo has to have a mega heater. Well, a mega heater for him. He's never going to be hitting like 8 homers in a month, I don't believe. But I do like Verdugo quite a bit. So there's a bunch of guys that are struggling. We kind of bookended it with Red Sox there. Sorry, Red Sox fans. That's just how your month went there with Whitlock and Verdugo not doing well. A lot of guys were staying the course on. Justin, we're kind of hitting a transition point right now where spending is going to come down in fab, right? Because people are running out of money. How do you adjust for that? Do you just have to kind of mentally adjust and kind of hope the market's there with you? Because there is no like set way to do it, but prices have to come down, right? As budgets start to dry up, especially in the NFBC world where there was $1,000 budgets that everyone now is kind of living more in the 500 and below.
Yeah, I mean, prices will start to come down. They'll come down even more next month as people really start ramping up for football.
Yes.
And I mean, I think you're going to start seeing people start to give up and start to, this is why I keep a spreadsheet for every single one of my leagues. And in each league spreadsheet, like I have fab prices. So I want to track like where these fab prices are going week to week. And kind of it's something that I picked up from someone else, honestly. It might have been Dave McDonald or another NFBC guy. Like, and I'm sorry I'm not giving the proper person credit, but if you're the person that told me about it, then please feel free to reach out and I will plug you next episode.
I always feel bummed when I can't give proper attribution, but at least I know that I'm not taking credit for something.
Yeah. So
that's what I always try to make sure of.
This was something, because I mean, this is something I've always kind of done, but I've just done it in my head, right? Like, but it just, when you play in a ton of leagues,
at some point you have to start tracking this stuff.
And you miss it.
I know
you miss things.
Yeah.
And so usually people have tendencies, right? Like they bid with the same numbers, or especially the same second number.
Oh my God, Colin will not let us bid certain numbers, and sometimes I forget, and I'll say, and he's like, okay, and he'll say like +1 of that. Like he'll say, let's say for example, I say let's do 29, and I would never do a 9 number anyway, but he'll go, okay, 30, we got it. Like he'll always just add the one because there's certain numbers that he will not end in, and I love it because you don't want to have those certain patterns. People do gravitate towards certain,
and I change my numbers every week. Like I mean,
that's the way to go. Yeah, you can't
usually I'm running with 3, 4, 6, 7, but I try to change mine every week so that way people don't pick up any sort of pattern on me, though. That now they've got the pattern, but
now they've got 4. Now they got to boil it down to 4 numbers. But which number will you pick?
If you haven't done already, I would set up a spreadsheet for your league, track your fab, track your standings. right?
Mhm.
Track those roster target or not roster categorical targets you had at the beginning of the season minus what your team has done and see if you're on track to hit those targets. Like this
Yep.
is and figure out where you're weak compared to other members of your league. Like this is the time to do that if you haven't already. So that way, as we start getting this summer and some people start tuning out, you can take advantage in your league.
Yep. I think that's absolutely a great way to do it. And again, I just cannot stress enough how no league is dead yet. I know some of y'all out there probably have devastating teams with a bunch of injuries. And some of those, yes, they are dead. I know there's outliers, but generally speaking, if you're dealing with standard injuries that everyone kind of gets, and you've got some capable stars and you've got a few breakouts, and it's not going that poorly, but you're sitting in 12th out of 12 or 12 out of 15. Do not give up. I promise you. Like my beat Paul Sporer. Like I said, I live up to that every year. They beat the shit out of me. But I'm sitting there in 12th and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm still going to make a move. I'm going to do my best to make a move because I look at the team. I see where the standings are, where I can make moves.
This is why like the spreadsheeting it out is really important because like it's one thing to look at your team and go, oh man, I'm this many standings points behind. And it's another thing when you spreadsheet it out and you go, well, I can gain 6 points in runs and 8 points in batting average. Like, when you start looking at it that way, yeah, I mean, we talked about it on Tuesday, but I gained 13.5 points in the standings in one day on Monday.
And that's an outlier day, but still. Yeah, exactly. And we're still doing that. You're still doing that on May 28th in the main event here. Like, it's out there. The points are out there in most leagues.
We're not even halfway through the season.
Like,
no. A lot can happen.
I know it sucks when you don't get out to a good start. You want to check your roster every day and have a good time with it. I get all that, but don't lose sight of the fact that you can still win. I promise you, some of you are in damn near dead last right now. You're going to win your damn leagues if you just stick with it. So that's what we'll end with. Are you and Jason going this weekend?
Yes, we are. And we've got a special guest, John Legeza, MLB Moving Average.
Tell him I said hello.
I will. He's been doing some fun stuff on his podcast with Fangraphs and Fangraphs tool. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and then we're going to talk.
I love his holding him accountable or the call out series too, where he's like, these are some things I disagree with, and he puts out his point, and I love that. It's all friendly. There's never.
He can't seem to let go of Bobby Dahlbeck, though. He sent me a tweet the other day. He goes, "It's happening. Bobby Dahlbeck, he hit a home run today. Please." And I just sent him, I've got video of it. And I sent him a picture of Charlie Brown or a gift of Charlie Brown trying to kick the football. Like, here you go. Like,
exactly. Stop, Johnny.
Like, no.
My man. Stop.
He has a blind spot. Like I don't know.
Get there. We all, hey,
I still think Bradley Zimmer is going to be a thing.
Exactly, and I told everyone to draft Akil Badu. So listen, we all have our misses, but I do not think Bobby Dahlbeck is going to turn it around for him. No. I'm not going to chalk it up as a dub yet because I don't want to take that ugly L where you pre-took.
I already did that.
But I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about trying to dissuade folks from taking Bobby Dahlbeck. But like I said, I had John Badu, so. We're net even. Yeah. Anyway, Justin, have a great weekend. Good luck with or not. Hope everything goes well with the 6th grade finalization for your child. I know that's a big.
They call it promotion.
Okay, good, because it's not a graduation.
It's not a graduation.
I want to call it that, but I'm not a parent either, so who am I to even speak on this stuff? But I don't like the kindergarten graduation or the 6th grade graduation. But
that's at least cute. Yeah,
the kindergarten one is cute. I agree, but yeah. I'm glad 6th grade is just a promotion now. So high school next year, right?
Or middle school. Well, don't. I'm not.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just gave you a heart attack. I'm so sorry. Middle school.
It's weird enough that I'm gonna have 7 through 8 or 7 and 8.
Just 7 and 8. Okay, and then you go 9 through. I know it's. I was 7, 8 as well. So I was 6, 7, 8 was middle school for us, and then it was 9 through 12. So anyway, I'm a million years old. Justin, have a great weekend. Good luck with Jason and Johnny, and I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.